You all get to name these Pokemon as superheroes. In the comment section below, give names to each of the Pokemon superheroes in this episode, and at the end of the next Pokemon as Superheroes episode, I'll announce who I thought came up with the best names. But alright, let's get into the episode. Roll the opening banner. Alright, first up we've got Lucario, who is one of the most requested Pokemon that I turn into a superhero. The reason that I'd avoided turning him into a superhero until now was because he's already pretty human-shaped. It's a lot easier to change the character around more if they're a character that is very not human-looking. Lucario, you could just shift a couple things around and he's basically already a human-looking superhero. But that meant I could focus a little bit more on the rendering, and I do still change things up a little bit. I decided to have a sort of a tail for him. I gave him that sort of scarf belt that characters like Captain Marvel have, and I think that ended up pretty cool. And then with his head, I had originally thought I was going to do something a little bit Batman-like, where he has, you know, the same sort of ears that Lucario has. But then partway through I thought, okay, what if I don't do that and I actually have this sort of band of black, kind of like a Ninja Turtle mask or something like that, over his eyes and head, and then have his hair sticking out spiked up, and that can represent Lucario's ears. And I really like how that turned out. And then I had him holding 2 Shadow Balls. I think that's that attack that, you know, the one that he's always doing in Smash Bros. And that was just a good way to add some, you know, glowy bits to it and inform some of the lighting on the character. So I really ended up liking how this one turned out, so let's take a look at it. Lucario is a superhero. Now this one is, I don't know, probably the one that I put on the thumbnail, because I really love how this one turned out. It's just super cool looking. For Absol, I was thinking something along the lines of a, like, Black Canary kind of character, something like a Birds of Prey type hero, and I decided, because I saw that Absol, who's a character I've never been super familiar with, I think Absol is cool, it's just not a Pokemon I knew a lot about. Absol attacks people with that spike thing, and it gets like a glowy, I don't know what attack it is, but you know, she like swings her head and shoots out a disc blast thing. That's a terrible description. But anyway, I decided to put that on this superhero's arm, and then outfit-wise, I made her a bit darker looking than Absol actually is, because I decided to put the white on the jacket over the rest of the character's outfit, and the underbits are a bit darker blue. But I still think it represents Absol pretty well, because we've got the white swoop of hair over the eye, which was one of the first ideas I had for this character. And then I also put a bit of Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road style, like not eye shadow, like a whole black paint-ish kind of thing over the character's upper face, and I think that really makes the red eye pop out. And I could totally see this character being the teammate of Lucario, or maybe they're some kind of superhero power couple or something. But yeah, really like this one, so hope you do too. Remember to be naming them in the comments. Here it is. Next up, we've got Chestnut, and the reason I ended up picking Chestnut is actually because I was just kind of flipping through my handy book of all the Pokemon from Gens 1 through 7, I think it is, and I came across Chestnut and immediately just had an idea for a very Juggernaut-looking character. In fact, I think I drew this Chestnut drawing in the same pose that I drew Juggernaut in that digital coloring tutorial, but I couldn't help myself. I love that pose. I love the idea of drawing a big hulking Juggernaut type character. I decided to make the character a little bit friendlier looking, a little bit more superhero-ish. He's still got a bit of a smirk, a bit of an angry, not angry look, but kind of sarcastic, proud of himself kind of look. I don't know, I made the eyes bigger to make the character a little bit friendlier, make him look a little bit younger, but I also took some inspiration from Colossus because of how Chestnut has some kind of lines going through his limbs. I was thinking of that being kind of like the metallic texture over Colossus, how it's got those lines through it, and I really like that combination. I like how I put the spikes on the elbow, and this one just turned out fun. It's a nice vibrant one. I probably changed the colors around a bit too much because I leaned into the green and darker brown more so than the whitish beige that is most of Chestnut's body, but regardless, I still love how this turned out, so hope you do too. So here's Chestnut Superhero. This was another widely requested one, Mudkip, and I was already in kind of a sidekick mood because I just, recently finished doing all the redraws of the sidekicks and henchmen for the last community redraw episode, which if you haven't seen it yet, go check it out, I'll link it in the card or something. So much awesome stuff submitted, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, so this one I decided to lean into the sidekick idea, made the character a little bit younger looking, and I'd intended to make them younger looking. They probably ended up not super young, but I also thought about doing a sort of waterbender type character. And instead of doing one long stream of water, I did a bunch of like little water droplets flying through the air, going through the character's hands. And I thought that was kind of fun. I gave the character a nice big grin because, Mudkip's a cute character. It's the first stage in the evolution, and so younger, cuter, fun. I'd consider doing Swampert because I personally really love Swampert. It's one of my favorite Pokemon, but Mudkip was widely requested, so I said, let's do the one that people want me to do. Maybe I'll do Swampert in a future episode, but yeah, this was fun. I put the fin on the character's head, and instead of doing the sort of cheek things, I gave the character sort of big buns in her hair that was supposed to be kind of like those cheek things. They might be a little bit too dark to come across as the same sort of design element, but I think shape-wise they keep it a little bit similar to how Mudkip's head looks. So yeah, this one was fun and cute, pretty much came out how I'd intended. Simple design, but I still like it. So, here we go. Mudkip Superhero. Now, I'd been wanting to do Charizard as a superhero again for ages, but I did him in the very, very first Pokemon as Superheroes episode, so I thought, okay, you know what, let's do a Mega Evolution. So I decided to do Charizard Mega Evolution X, or Mega Charizard X, however you phrase it, and I'm glad I did. This one was a lot of fun. It got to be a bit darker. He probably comes across as more of a supervillain than a superhero, but he could be like an anti-hero or something. I was thinking something along the lines of a Batman, Spawn, Superman. Not Superman in the sense of it being a darker-ish character, but in terms of this character's like flying. I'd almost given him big spiky Goku hair because I was thinking the Mega Evolution is kind of like the Super Saiyan version of the regular Pokemon. I didn't really end up leaning into that, but I did give the character kind of spiky, edgy-ish hair, and I've got him with this sort of menacing grin looking down at someone, and with his cape I did a little bit of how Spawn's cape is always crazy flying around. I made the cape a little bit bigger than I usually do. Feel like I could have leaned into that more, but I do like how it turned out here. This is also one of the few characters that I gave a chest emblem to. I made it sort of a graphic-ish design version of Mega Charizard's head with the fire spewing out the sides. It's nothing too special. It's probably one of the weaker elements of the whole design, but overall, I'm really happy with how this one turned out. He almost looks like he's about to swoop down and hit someone. Maybe I should draw some kind of drawing of this guy fighting a Mega Charizard Y or something like that. I don't know, maybe I'll do that. Let me know if you want to see that. But yeah, overall, I think this one's super cool looking. Name him in the comments, and here you go. So, a few people have asked me why I haven't posted anything for Inktober yet, and that's actually because I decided to do something kind of dumb and do all of Inktober in one day, in one sitting. And it was really exhausting for me, but I think it's going to make a fun video for you, so make sure you're subscribed and got the bell rung. That's coming out on Monday, and there's some, decent art in there that I kind of like, but, okay, well that's a mess now, so let's just get back to Pokemon and Superheroes. Alright, now the next two are kind of the same Pokemon, so I'm gonna go through them quickly. It's not actually. Basically what happened was Groudon is one of the characters that was most requested, so I started off by doing this drawing of Groudon as a superhero. I had Groudon in there, then also brought in an image of Primal Groudon just to have some other design element possibilities. The only design from that I worked into this was that Omega sort of logo that Primal Groudon has on his hands. I put that as the chest emblem on this, but besides this, it's mostly just regular Groudon, and I like elements of this one, but something about it just didn't feel quite right. I wasn't totally thrilled with it, although this admittedly was one of the first drawings I did for this video, and that thing around his hand that sort of almost looks like like the end of an animated explosion or something. I really like that, and you'll probably notice that I use that in a bunch of the other drawings in this, and I'll probably use that more in my work going forward. But anyway, let's jump over to the Primal Groudon, because I wasn't super thrilled with how this one turned out, and Primal Groudon I liked a little bit better. Yeah, so Primal Groudon, I decided to lean a little bit more into a sort of character that looked kind of like The Thing mixed with Heatblast from Ben 10. And that kind of works. This is another one that's not one of my favorites of the batch in this video. I do like it better because it's really nice working with a character with a lot of, as I've mentioned in a bunch of my videos lately, a character that's got some glowy bits to them, because that lighting can just be used to inform the lighting on other parts of the character. So for this, I had to light it a bit differently because he's got so much light coming from within him. I had to make more shadows on the outside of those sort of rocky clumps on the character and have lighting around parts where I wouldn't normally put lighting if there was just regular light coming onto the character. This one also does end up looking a little bit more villainous, but I could still see it being a hero, just not a particularly friendly hero. Hope you like this one. Not one of my favorites of the batch, but still curious what people want to name him in the comments. So, here's Primal Groudon Superhero. Now this is one that I am surprised I hadn't done already, because I just love Sandslash. I'm pretty sure every episode I've done so far, I've been like, I gotta do Sandslash, and then just didn't get to him. And part of the reason is kind of because it's hard to not just do Wolverine from Sandslash, because so many of the design elements just scream Wolverine, like the way the ears can easily be the same as Wolverine's head thing, and he's got like spike claws, so my instinct is to just do claws. And admittedly, I kind of just leaned into that. At first I was going to do it as a female Wolverine type character, but then I was like, Laura Kinney, Wolverine already has 2 claws, so doing this character female just makes it even more Laura Kinney. So I just shifted it a little bit and made it a male character. And I also gave him that spiky hair again because I was just in that mind space of, you know, Dragon Ball type character, but I made the spikes way shorter, so it doesn't totally come across that way. I also made the claws way bigger and coming out of a sort of mechanism on the character's forearms, which Wolverine has had that before. I forget what it was. I think it was a run that Ryan Stegman did the art for, where he couldn't use his claws anymore for some reason, so he got a mechanism to add new claws on top. I forget, but it was a cool run from what I remember. But yeah, this one actually ends up being one of my favorites. It's one of the most simple designs, but that's kind of my thing, because when you do a simpler design, I tend to focus a bit more on how I'm doing the rendering of the lighting and shadows, and I really love that on this one, especially the lighting on the character's chest, and then how it contrasts with the character having darker skin on their face. It just really attracts your eye to this sort of area. So I hope y'all have a good name for it. Here's Sandslash as a superhero. Alright, now this is a weird, kind of goofy looking one. It looks very frog-like in the end. A bunch of people have asked me to do Sceptile, however you want to say it, as a superhero, and when I was flipping through that handy book of all Pokemon, and I saw Grovyle, I just instantly had a better idea for what to do. So I was like, okay, Sceptile we'll do some other time maybe, and I went with Grovyle, because Grovyle's got that big, long leaf hair thing that just easily turns into a ponytail. So I did a female ninja-ish type character, and with the eyes I did the sort of Spider-Man kind of thing where they can move around and in a sort of don't think about the logic of this kind of way. And then I wanted to have the character throwing those sort of blades that Grovyle has on his forearms. And I made the hands really big, and the expression is very bent as the character's throwing the stuff, and the whole thing ends up looking just kind of weird and bizarre and very, very frog-like, which isn't exactly what I was going for, but I don't mind it. It's cool, it's weird, I don't know. Let me know what you all think. Here's our Grovyle as a superhero. Alright, and finally, Blaziken, who, this is another one that's been widely requested that I'd avoided doing because Blaziken is already very human-shaped, so I didn't have to do too much to change things up. I basically made a character that's kind of like an Iron Fist type character. She's got, like, I end up giving her a glowy fist with that same sort of explosion-y or post-explosion texture around the fist near the end, and because Blaziken's got these two big hair streaks, I was like, okay, cool, I'll give the character sort of, what are they called? Not ponytails, because there's two of them. Pigtails? Is that what it's called when there's two? That same kind of thing that Harley Quinn has? That's one of my go-tos when a character has big ears, and that's one of their defining traits, is I'll give them that sort of, what are they called? Pigtails? I forget. Anyway, I like the pose of this one enough. I messed around with the legs a little bit, trying to figure out what to do with them, and I made the character a bit younger than I'd originally intended. I thought I was gonna go with an older female superhero. I don't really mind it, it's not bad. But again, it's one that just felt like it took a little bit less creativity because I'm kind of just shifting the body shape of the character a bit, changing around the head. I turned Blaziken's, whatever these things are, into being a part of the superhero's mask. But probably my favorite part of this one, besides the glowy fist that I give it, I turned Blaziken's hand talons into sort of that, what's it called, Muay Thai tape or whatever, around the character's fists, and then left the fingers exposed so we could see some glowy hand. But yeah, not one of my favorites of the batch, but I like elements of it, and I'm curious, again, to see what you all name it. Here's Blaziken Superhero. Well, this is definitely my favorite batch of Pokemon superheroes so far. As I mentioned at the beginning, there's a whole playlist of these videos that I'll link in the description. But, of course, now we have to announce who had the best names, in my personal opinion, from the last Pokemon and Superheroes episode. So let's bring those drawings up now. There were a lot of really great name ideas, but I had to pick one per character, and here's what I ended up deciding on. First up, our Scyther superhero is Soaring Scythe, named by Custom Cool Guy. Then, our Umbreon superhero was named by Joe Francis as Phantom Fox. Next up, our Gengar was named by TK_42030, and the name was Dark Pulse. Then our Alolan Raichu was named Spark Surfer by Jozan. Then our Venusaur was named Mr. Foliage by Noctum. And finally, by Zeffy, our Arcanine superhero was named Hellhound Hogan, which Zeffy meant as a joke, but it kind of cracked me up, so I decided to go with it. Thanks to everyone who named characters. I'm excited to see what you got for this next batch. But alright everybody, that's all for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, ring the bell, share it with people that you think might be interested. Also, of course, I do a monthly community redraw episode. The theme for this month, October 2019, is Supernatural. Anything supernatural, supernatural hero, villain, monster, creature, whatever. Instructions for how to submit are in the description. But yeah, that's all for this episode. I'm Christian Pearson. This has been Popcross Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.